Hey, welcome back to another episode of Revealed Apologetics. I'm your host, Eli Ayala, and today we're going to take a little bit of a more lighter route in terms of topics. We're going to be responding to cringe atheist memes. That's right, I collected some cringy atheist memes to respond to, just to have a little fun, and perhaps do some teaching in the process. Just because something is cringy doesn't mean you're not going to confront it somewhere. Now, of course, there's always going to be someone in the audience or the comments, well, why don't you respond to real objections? And of course, if you follow this channel, I have responded to a whole host of objections to Christianity, to the Christian worldview, to presuppositionalism, transcendental argumentation. We've gone from the Stroudian objection, that are much more sophisticated objections, to more kind of lay objections. This is within the realm of kind of lay objections, but I thought it might be fun and an opportunity to teach. So I hope that folks, will forgive me for taking a little bit more of a lighter route this evening. So let's kind of jump right into this. Let's see, we're going to get that on the screen here. So cringe atheist memes, you kind of find this all over the place. It's a very interesting thing to, let me kind of make this here. It's a very interesting thing to surf the internet. And do people say that still? Surf the internet? It's interesting to be online because you find all sorts of interesting people and things, and so I've had my fair share of interactions with some interesting memes. As a matter of fact, I think we did a video a couple of years ago. I don't know how many years ago it was, but it was quite some time ago, where we interacted with some popular atheistic memes, and so I figured we're due for another meme episode. So here we are. All right, I'm going to make it enlarged a little bit so you can see it better. There we go. And so we're going to jump right into this. So let's take a look at our first meme. All right, so there's a picture of God and an atheist. So God's there on the left. He says, "I am the creator. No one created me." And the atheist responds in such a slick and perceptive manner. The atheist says, "That just makes you an atheist." And then, of course, God gets angry and blows up the earth. Right. So this is really, really silly, right? The fact that God does not have a creator is just to say that he is eternal and self-existent, which makes him God. So if God is God, then he does believe in God because he is God. Okay. So when the guy over here says that makes you an atheist, I mean, how are we using the term atheist, right? If atheist is the belief that there is no God, then obviously God is not an atheist. And if you are using atheism as kind of a description of a psychological disposition that, you lack belief or whatever, then that's obviously not the case either. So that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. Very cringe, very cringe. Let me know in the comments, is that the cringiest you've seen? If you have some really, really cringy memes, you could email them to me at revealedapologetics@gmail.com. I actually find this stuff very fascinating. So you could send them to me and I will take a look. Maybe maybe we'll have like a compilation where we respond to, 100 memes or something like that. Maybe not 100, but there you go. That's our first really cringy meme. Dr. Greg Bahnsen was a renowned Christian apologist, philosopher, and seminary professor, and his life's work is now at your fingertips with Bahnsen U. Bahnsen U aims to bring seminary-level education to every Christian anytime, anywhere, absolutely free. Gain access to over 140 courses covering theology, apologetics, eschatology, and law, featuring sermons, seminary lectures, and more from the legendary Dr. Greg Bahnsen. Now, if you sign up today at apologiastudios.com and join over 13,000 users already benefiting from this incredible resource, you will not regret it. And soon, they're expanding with Bahnsen U Plus and Bahnsen U Live, bringing fresh supplemental learning and real-time engagement. Again, go to apologiastudios.com and start your journey today. Okay, let's see here. Theism. It says childhood indoctrination, right? The reason you think you believe in God, and then it has a picture of someone having like a religious experience, maybe suggesting that God reveals himself to people or whatever the case may be. And then the real reason you believe in God, it's kind of like a domineering parent, disciplining a child or yelling at a child. I don't know what's going on in that picture, but the idea is that the reason why we believe in God is because we've been indoctrinated to believe in God. Now, of course, this line of thinking, obviously it's cringe, but you do see this a lot in the world today. this idea that we hold to religious beliefs simply because we've been indoctrinated to believe them. Now, notice a couple of things here, just in terms of logic. It does not logically follow that because you are indoctrinated to believe a certain set of beliefs, that those sets of beliefs are wrong. That's one thing. And number two, I think the interesting thing here is that that's a completely reversible claim, isn't it? Right? If someone claims to be an atheist, we could say, well, you're just an atheist because you were indoctrinated by someone to be an atheist, right? Now, of course, maybe that's false. Maybe you are an atheist because you have other reasons that you think are more rational or more well thought out. But the point is, okay, we all are impacted in some way, shape, or form by teachings and things that we encounter, ideas that we encounter. So it's really irrelevant as to whether theism is true. And if this is some kind of objection, it's easily reversible, right? So I think this is kind of silly. It is to say also that if you are a theist, then you can't be a theist for any intellectual reasons, right? There's nobody out there that studied the issue and became convinced through an examination of the evidence, right? Now, of course, we don't believe that happens in a neutral fashion. I do believe ultimately persuasion is the power of the Holy Spirit, but God uses means. And oftentimes that means is through an investigation of the evidences that are clearly revealed to us in the world. So, so I think this is pretty bad, but it is a common line of thinking that we find in society today. Yeah. So let's see here. Scooby-Doo. I love Scooby-Doo. I used to watch Scooby-Doo a lot. I always was interested. They did a good job in the episodes of hiding the identity of the culprit, right? I'm always wondering, like, who is it? And I always guess wrong. And when you watch those movies where there's like a killer, I never guess the right killer, right? You think it is because you kind of do like a reverse psychology kind of thing where you kind of find like this side character that it looks like the movie is de-emphasizing them, and you're kind of like, that's probably the person. It's never the person that I guess. So I've stopped trying to guess. But anyway, you have the I forgot his name already. Oh my goodness. Maybe someone can let me know in the chat. What's that guy's name? There's Shaggy, there's Scooby, there's was it Velma? And oh my goodness. Is it Daphne? Daphne? It's been a while. I forgot this dude's name. How can I forget his name? There's a blonde dude with the scarf around his neck. Anyway, so you have the meme here is that they're about to unmask the culprit, right? And of course, the atheist is going to unmask the culprit, which says the word God there. And when he lifts up the mask, it says old men desperately clinging to power and control, suggesting that really religion is not really true. It's just about people controlling other people. Of course, again, this again is reversible itself. Okay, and I can admit, throughout history, you have had people utilize religion for the purpose of power and control. But notice that is literally irrelevant as to whether a religion is true or not, right? This is kind of like when people who argue along these lines are kind of committing a fallacy of irrelevancy, right? This is kind of irrelevant to the main point at hand. And of course, people have used all sorts of ideologies to exercise power and control over individuals. That doesn't necessarily mean that the position is false per se, right? Within the Christian perspective, people are sinners, right? Christianity anticipates corruption and the misuse of its teachings. And of course, the Bible gives us guidelines as to how we are to respond to falsehoods. We respond to falsehoods by propounding on the truth. So there you go. That's a pretty bad one. All right. Here's another one. I guess this is a character from the Game of Thrones, a show that I have not seen, and I don't care to see at all. But let's see here. It says, so the billions of people who existed before your Jesus are burning in hell for being born. Sorry, my slide buttons are covering the rest of the meme. It says, let me see. So I think I could figure it out. So the billions of people who existed before your Jesus are burning in hell for being born too early in history. That's what it says. Okay. So billions of people who existed before your Jesus are all burning in hell for being born too early in history. Now, again, this has kind of an emotional punch to it because a lot of people think about like what happened to the people who were alive before Christ. But of course, you want to look at something like this and identify the faulty assumptions and mischaracterizations of what Christians actually believe, right? Christianity does not teach that anyone goes to hell because they were born too early in history. That's just not the Christian position. As a matter of fact, the Bible says that God created man in his image, and he has written the law of God on their heart, and that the existence of God is so clearly perceived that men are unapologetus. They are literally without an apologetic. They are without excuse. So you guys have heard me say this all the time. The Bible clearly teaches that all men have a knowledge of God that they suppress in unrighteousness. They suppress what? According to Romans chapter 1. They suppress the truth. Now notice you have to be in possession of the truth in order to suppress the truth. Now granted, the atheist is going to listen to what I'm going to say and say, well, that's ridiculous. I don't know that God exists. Well, there's a problem. From the Christian worldview, God says you do. And while you deny him with your mouth, you live as though he exists, relying on the tools that he so graciously gives you. Tools like logic, rational thought, all these sorts of things that we've discussed on this channel, right? The tools of science, things like this, okay? God has revealed himself in the created order such that the heavens declare the glory of God, okay? You look outside, there's evidence around you. You look within yourself, there's evidence within you. There is literally no excuse. Now, folks can deny that. That's fine. I anticipate that people will. But if you're going to critique, if someone puts this meme out to critique the Christian position, okay, it's important to notice that this is not a proper representation of the Christian position. If you're an atheist and you hate Christianity, or you're an atheist and you don't hate Christianity, but you disagree with Christianity or whatever, you should agree with me that if Christianity were true, then no one goes to hell on the basis of being born too early in history. Okay? People go to hell. This is the teaching of the Bible. People go to hell because of their sin. Okay? You might not agree with hell. You might not like the concept, right? Some Christians struggle with it as well, but that is completely irrelevant as to the truth of the case. Okay? People go to hell because of their sin. That's why people go to hell. And on the Christian worldview, whether you can perceive this or not, God rightfully judges people. No one is in hell unfairly, right? That is the teaching of Scripture. Whether you can process that in your mind or whatever is irrelevant. The point is, this meme is obviously a caricature of what Christians actually believe, okay? So again, it always puts forth memes like this and ideas that are similar to this, always put man kind of like in the place of innocence, right? Like, well, I didn't know or I couldn't have known. No, the Bible says all men have a knowledge of God. They are without excuse. God has written his law in our hearts, and we violate that law. We are punished because of our sin. We are rightly punished for our sin. So again, misrepresentation, okay? And you should be able to call that out when you hear it or see it, okay? All right, here's another meme here. There is not a single religion who can survive. There's not a single, I can't read today. There's not a single religion that can survive the two words, prove it. That's right. Prove it. Well, I don't think if atheism were true, you guys have heard me say this all the time. If atheism were true, nothing can be proven. Okay. It's very interesting to hear some atheists. I know obviously you have different perspectives and there are people who are more sophisticated and well thought out in terms of their positions and so forth. But it's very interesting when I hear people, atheists online say, prove it, prove it, prove it. And they never give you a standard of proof. Or they'll give you some illegitimate standard of proof that they don't consistently follow themselves. For example, I'll, prove it by showing me something that I can see, as though you only believe things that you can see. And that's demonstrably false. Atheists believe in all sorts of things they can't empirically verify, even if they might suggest otherwise. Number two, I've heard well-known atheists say, well, when someone says, what would convince you that God exists? Okay, you have people say, and maybe you'll identify who I'm referring to here, okay, I don't know what would convince me, but if God exists, he would know, right? So we're never given a standard, and when we're given a standard, the standard is illegitimate, and they don't consistently follow that standard itself. But again, coming from a biblical perspective, okay, proof, well, not even, just think about it. Proof itself has certain necessary preconditions, okay? That's kind of how we argue transcendentally, don't we, right? Proof presupposes all sorts of things. Proof presupposes logic. Proof presupposes truth. Proof presupposes, well-working cognitive faculties, these sorts of things. Proof requires and presupposes the uniformity of nature, all things that the unbeliever cannot provide a justification for. In fact, many unbelievers have told me that I don't need to justify those things. You're just dodging. And of course, we're not. We're just not granting them the foundations that undergird what must be the case in order for proof to be the case. All right. Now, proof is going to be also different than persuasion, right? You can prove your point, but it's not going to be persuasive to everyone. And the reasons for that is not because your proof is illegitimate or bad, although sometimes people think they're proof something and they don't, and I get that as well. But again, people operate under different presuppositions. We've talked about this, ad nauseum on this channel, right? So, I'll hear people all the time, just give me some credible proof, give me some credible evidence, all the while not recognizing that all of that is worldview dependent. And so if you can't justify the things that undergird the very things you're asking for, then there's a problem from within that perspective. All right. So there you go. I think that one religion can survive those words, and that's Christianity, because Christianity provides the necessary preconditions for proof itself. Okay. That's how it's usually summarized, right? The proof for the Christian worldview is that if it were not true, you couldn't prove anything at all. That's just a cliche version of the transcendental argument, obviously needing to be fleshed out in more detail, which we've done before. All right, let's see here. Yes, an office, the office meme, right? So there's a comment there on the top. It says, God created the waters, and then, it's blocking the way. Let's see here. It says, false. What does it say? Clouds produce precipitation. Let me see, hold on. Okay, so I apologize. It is not, I can't read the whole thing because the way it works here when I share my slides, the picture is being blocked, or the text is being blocked by my slide mover, if that makes sense. But the point is, when we say that God created the waters, this person's saying false because they give kind of a natural explanation. And I think the problem here is that when you identify a natural explanation or a natural cause for some material or natural phenomenon, that does not negate a supernatural cause. Christians don't deny that there are natural causes for things, but of course, we would make a differentiation between kind of primary causation and secondary causation. We obviously believe that God utilizes means to bring about certain things to accomplish his purposes in the world and so forth. And one of those means are the natural courses of the laws of nature and so forth, right? Those are things that we argue that are put in place by God himself. So by identifying natural causes for something, it does not logically entail that that there's no God, or God's not ultimately the cause of weather patterns, so on and so forth. So again, that's just a misunderstanding here. All right, let's see. Let's go to the other one here. So we've got an atheist here. Is that supposed to be Richard Dawkins or something? I don't know. Okay, so it says, intelligent design, so intelligent that there are more than 4,000 genetic diseases. Yeah, I never understood this one. So in order for something to be intelligently designed, what? It has to be perfect? I mean, according to the Christian picture, God created everything good and things were tainted by sin. So we would give an explanation of disease and suffering and so forth. It's rooted in human sin and God's judgment upon the world. So I don't see how that causes a problem for Christianity. Yeah, that's a weird one. All right, let's see here. This one's a classic one. So yeah, you have a picture of Jesus knocking on someone's door. He says, "Let me in." And the person says, "Why?" And then Jesus says, "So I can save you." And the person says, "From what?" And then, of course, Jesus says, "From what I'm going to do if you don't let me in." That's a good one. That's a good... rhetorically, that seems kind of like... I can get how that can trip someone up if you're not theologically informed. However, like all memes and misrepresentations of Christianity, there's always the wrong context for these things. So, for example, what is the situation between God and man? Is it gentle Jesus calmly knocking on the door, threatening us with hell? Okay. Or is it a courtroom scene where we are guilty of a crime? We are guilty, and God extends mercy. Right? I like how the extension of mercy is being distorted in this particular meme. The reality is, you're not just living in your house in peace and wondering, well, why is Jesus wanting to come into my heart? No. You're a sinner. Okay. You've sinned. The Bible says all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. The wages of sin is death. And so it logically entails, if that's true, that we all deserve death. We all deserve damnation. But God extends mercy. That's what the gospel is all about. While we were yet sinners, Christ came and died. So this particular meme kind of, again, misrepresents the picture that Christianity gives us. Okay. And it also has a very Arminian-esque kind of feel to it, right? Jesus is knocking on the door. All you got to do is use your free will to let to let me in. There's a whole host of theological problems with that as well. So the thing with these memes is you need to be able to identify the mischaracterization. Let me take this down here. You want to be able to identify the mischaracterization of the Christian worldview. Many memes that I've encountered, I guess all atheistic memes that try to attack Christianity, the ones that I've encountered are predicated upon attempts at an external critique of the Christian worldview. Isn't that right? Okay. They are assuming things that Christianity does not hold to, yet it is cloaked in language that sounds like something Christians believe or is based upon some kind of, maybe a cliche concept that many Christians, say, or you hear from the pulpit or something like that. So you want to be able to identify faulty assumptions and mischaracterizations. All right. And the way that you do this is you just need to be familiar with your worldview. You need to be familiar with what Christianity teaches. Take that meme that we looked at before, where it says that you're Jesus. Let me see if I can get it up here again. I like that. It's a good example to demonstrate. So this one here, it says, so the billions of people who existed before your Jesus are burning in hell for being born too early in history, right? The way you answer that meme is simply to know your theology, right? Okay. You kind of had Christopher Hitchens use a similar example back in the day where he says, such and such amount of years have passed, and there was death and suffering and heaven stood still and watched and 2,000 years ago suddenly decided to get up and do so. Of course, that's a misrepresentation of what Christianity teaches. God has always been involved in human history. Men have always been, after Adam, sinful, violating the law of God that they know that is written on their hearts, okay? And so, again, knowing your theology will equip you to respond to obvious misrepresentations and caricatures of the Christian faith, all right? Well, I hope you enjoyed that. We'll kind of try to pick some more later. That took much quicker than I thought, but that's okay. The key to surviving, okay, an attempted internal critique of the Christian worldview is to point out when an attempted internal critique is actually a cloaked external critique of the Christian worldview. Okay. Super, super helpful concept to keep in mind when you're evaluating things like this, or you're evaluating actual objections that people bring up in conversation. Okay. When someone says something that's not an accurate representation of your view, you need to say, hold up, wait a second. Well, I don't believe that as a Christian. See, from a Christian perspective, use the example again, no one goes to hell because they were born too early. People go to hell because of their sin. Now, the unbeliever might not find that credible. They'll see, well, but no, people didn't hear about Jesus. People didn't know about your God. But of course, if Christianity's true, all men have a knowledge of my God, such that they are without excuse. You don't have to believe that. Obviously, the atheist is not going to be like, that makes sense. Like, they don't have to believe that. But if you are offering an accurate critique of the Christian perspective, you're going to have to grant that, because to not is to misrepresent what I actually believe and then foist a meme or an objection upon a position that we don't hold. Okay? So Christians, you need to learn to not bite when the meat is hung out there, because memes can be very powerful rhetorically. You want to make sure you step back, take a moment, evaluate, what is this person assuming? What is this person presupposing when they post this meme or when they say this comment or do this, that, or the other thing? Okay. So that's really, really helpful in terms of examining what people are saying. Also, you want to apply logic to these issues as well, right? Where was that other one here? Let me see here. Let's go back here. No, not that one. This one here. Right here. So, old men, religion or the belief in God is basically reduces to old men desperately clinging to power and control, right? Just apply logic, right? It's a non sequitur to suggest that that's, because people have done that who believe in God, that therefore God doesn't exist, or that Jesus didn't rise from the dead, right? That's just a blatant non sequitur. So you want to be able to point these things out when you get stuff like, very cringy stuff where if you were born in England, you'd be a Christian. If you were born in India, you'd be a Hindu. If you were born in the Middle East, you might be a Muslim. Whatever these things. And the suggestion is that the only reason why you're a Christian is you're born in America in a Christian home or whatever. That very point can be turned around on the person saying it with respect to their view, right? The only reason why you are what you are is because you were born in a particular place. Notice that when people say that, it is completely and utterly irrelevant as to whether the position is true or not. So you got to be able to point that out, right? It's also kind of the form of a genetic fallacy, right? That you're trying to invalidate a view based upon how someone came to believe it, right? So again, whole bunch of logical errors in these things, misrepresentations, mischaracterizations. You need to be able to point them out when they arise. All right. Well, okay. This one's a short one today. I hope this is useful to you folks and that you enjoy it. If you like this kind of stuff, I'm kind of just shooting from the hip. Let me know. I'll try to do more videos like that. But until next time, guys, thank you so much for listening. If this is your first time watching Revealed Apologetics and this video has blessed you in any way, shape, or form, please be sure to subscribe, to click the notification bell, and check out my website as well, revealedapologetics.com. And of course, you could email me any question you'd like or a topic you'd like me to cover. You could email me at revealedapologetics@gmail.com. Thank you so much. Until next time, God bless. Bye-bye.